Sup guys, Bjorn here with 9.1 just around the corner. I figured today would be a really good time to take a look at some Weapons of Order gameplay for monks. It's quite a fiddly cooldown. It can be tricky to play with both on single target and on AoE, especially if you have some old monk muscle memory from previous expansions maybe, or if you're just new to the class in general. So what does the spell actually do? Well, for the next 30 seconds, your mastery is increased by 12.5%. Additionally, Rising Sun Kick reduces chi cost by 1, and Blackout Kick reduces the cooldown of all affected abilities by an additional 1 second. So, very strong. Mastery component is good. The Rising Sun Kick reduces chi cost component is really good, and it's basically the buff that you're looking to maintain for the entire window of this cooldown. And then we have the Blackout Kick reduces the cooldown of affected abilities by 1 additional second. This essentially just means that you're gonna be able to keep this Rising Sun Kick buff up, right? So because Blackout Kick reduces Rising Sun Kick cooldown by 2 seconds each time, you're gonna get Rising Sun Kick back before this buff falls off, right? So every single ability you have is going to cost 1 less chi for the entirety of the Weapons of Order window if you play it right. Now, if you don't play it right and let this buff fall off, it's going to be quite punishing, but, you know, sometimes, depending on your haste values, towards the end of the window, it might fall off. Like, it's not the easiest thing in the world to keep it up 100%, but we're going to try our best. So, first, we're just going to start off on a single target dummy here, see what it does on single target, see how it changes the rotation, and then we're going to do the same for AoE. Now, AoE is a lot harder. AoE is, I find it very hard to play that perfectly. Like, it's probably one of the hardest AoE specs in the game right now. But on single target, it is manageable. It is definitely doable to just play it perfectly every single time, but it's going to take some practice. So, yeah, let's just dive straight into the single target rotation then, shall we? So since you're Rising Sun Kick, you want to keep this buff up all the time, right? Then Blackout Kick suddenly skyrockets in priority because it's free, because it does, like, with 1 chi less reduced cost, it obviously costs 0 chi. So it's a 0 chi mastery resetter that also lowers the cooldown of all your other spells, so it's very strong. You want to use Blackout Kick every other global in Weapons of Order. Try to weave as many of them in as possible without breaking mastery, right? So this also means that instead of like using Fists of Fury and Whirling Dragon Punch ASAP on pull, you're probably gonna wanna, or you're definitely gonna wanna Blackout Kick in between those. And that means that you're going to get Rising Sun Kick back before you can even get these things on cooldown sometimes, right? So it's going to be quite a stressful rotation. If you're used to the old monk and just like muscle memory pressing Whirling Dragon Punch whenever it's up, pressing Fist of Fury whenever that's up, then you're probably going to struggle a bit at the start here. But yeah, it just comes down to learning a new rotation basically. And the more you practice with it, the easier it's going to be, obviously. So yeah, let's just get straight into some VODs of the rotation, I guess. Okay, so here we're setting up for single target pull. The most important thing is just to get 5 chi before you use your cooldowns. Ideally, you wouldn't want to use Fist of the White Tiger either, but it doesn't really matter that much. Now, once you pop all your CDs, it's gonna be Rising Sun Kick on the first global, right? Then obviously, as I said before, you want to Blackout Kick in between every global. So Blackout Kick is obviously going to be the second one. Then you're going to want to use Fists of Fury to get it on CD. Then obviously, as I said before, every other global is a Blackout Kick. So of course, after the Rising Sun Kick or after the Fists of Fury, you're going to Blackout Kick again. Now that means that your Rising Sun Kick is going to be up again before you even use your first Whirling Dragon Punch. And this is going to feel a little weird to you guys, but it is the intended way to play it. We're gonna see how it plays out here. See, I get another Rising Sun Kick out, then Blackout Kick, then I use the Whirling Dragon Punch, then another Blackout Kick, then another Rising Sun Kick here. And you see, here is where it starts falling apart a little bit. I'm at 3 chi. I barely clip this buff here with my next Rising Sun Kick, and then I can do another Blackout Kick, a Fist of Fury. Now, this is a problem here. See, I'm at 0 chi, and I just used a Blackout Kick. I should probably have Tiger Palm there instead. As you can see, ooh, I barely caught that again. I did get off another Tiger Palm. another Rising Sun Kick before the buff dropped. It only costs 1 chi, and that is going to depend a lot on your haste values, right? So if you have the haste Lego, or you should definitely have the haste Lego, and because you have the haste Lego, you're going to be able to get these clips during the first 20 seconds of your cooldowns. Now, after these cooldowns fall off here, or after the Sven haste buff falls off, you're gonna notice that it's not possible to keep this buff up anymore. Like you see here, it falls off. I might have been able to catch it there if I play better, but still, here it's gonna fall off again. Even though I could probably have caught there as well if I Black Cat kicked instead of Fist of Fury. But yeah, that's the window done. It is pretty hectic, especially during Lust. Like during Lust, you're gonna have Swen haste from the Lego plus the Lust haste. You're gonna be at like 70-60% haste. It's gonna feel very stressful probably, so I would for sure recommend you go try out the single target rotation, even buy some drums. Just use drums on pull to see what it feels like with a little bit more haste, because it does change up quite a bit depending on your haste values. Now, when it comes to the AoE part of Weapons of Order, it's a bit more tricky. There's a couple of different ways you can play it depending on how the pack looks and how long it will live and what types of enemies and how many enemies it's in there and stuff like that. But there's generally 2 different approaches I have. Now, you're no longer gonna Black Cat kick every other global, obviously, because you want to spin. The spin is what you want to do every other global if you can. Now, Black Cat kicking doesn't happen very often in AoE, but there are scenarios where it's really good. There are scenarios where you're going to be able to squeeze in a Black Cat kick, maybe in a scenario where you have like 2 seconds left on Rising Sun Kick CD and 1 second left on a buff, and you just use Spinning Crane Kick, for example. Then you can use the second part of Spinning Crane Kick to get a Black Cat kick out, and then the next global you're gonna Rising Sun Kick. So there's a quick example where you could use it. Now, most of the time I find it better to just Tiger Palm excessively on AoE instead, because now Dance of Chi scales of your chi consumption, right? So you do really want to be spending a lot of chi in AoE, and especially if the pack is gonna die very quickly, then you're probably gonna want to spin and Tiger Palm a lot. So we're first gonna take a look at the more general AoE scenario here, where there's packing coming. This pack there might be a lot of mobs in it. It might live very long. Maybe there's like 8 to 10 to 12 mobs in there, and since you're capped, your spin is only gonna hit 6 of them. So spinning in that scenario isn't as effective as it would be. In that case, I would definitely open up with dumping Fist of Fury and Whirling Dragon Punch ASAP, because the Whirling Dragon Punch damage is going to be a big part of your damage on that pool. The same goes for if the pack lasts long. For example, if the pack lasts like 30 seconds or like even if it lasts like 20 to 40 seconds, let's say that, you're going to start running out of energy pretty quickly on the latter, like in the tail end of your CDs, and after your CDs have expired, you're definitely gonna start running out of chi. So then it might be really good to start off a little bit more conservatively, to start off with the Fist of Fury and the Whirling Dragon Punch, so you get them back ASAP, right? So if you get 2 rotations in of these, it's really good to use them at the start. Now, some packs doesn't work like that, and we're gonna take a look at that later. But first, let's just roll a clip of the AoE where you want to get your fists and Whirling Dragon Punch out ASAP. So now, generally, as I said before, you want to spin every other global, but that's not quite going to work at the start here. So obviously, as you always do, you pool 5 chi, right? Into your CDs, into a Rising Sun Kick as the first global. Then, I would actually recommend Tiger Palming afterwards, as I did here. Like, you can see I'm trying to not overcap on energy. You see I'm at 91% energy here, and I've just used my Rising Sun Kick. Now, normally you would like spin, you can use Fists of Fury, you can use anything, but on AoE I prefer to just Tiger Palm another mob, because that's gonna mark this mob here, and it's gonna prevent me from overcapping on energy, which is gonna be pretty relevant later on in the pool if this lives long. So after the Tiger Palm, I'm gonna send it into a spin. Now this spin is pretty troll. I should probably have actually use my Fist of Fury straight away here into the Whirling Dragon Punch just to get him off, but instead I do a little mini spin. It's pretty bad. Then I go into the Fist of Fury, and I cancel the Fist of Fury instantly into a Whirling Dragon Punch. Now, Fist of Fury does do pretty decent AoE damage. It's just that it's nowhere near as bursty as Spinning Crane Kick, right? So if you really want to kill these mobs quickly and you want to shit on the damage meters, you would much rather be spinning than you would be channeling Fist of Fury, right? So that's why I just cancel it instantly there. It's not very damage effective at all. Chi effective at all. It's very bad, right? You spend 3 chi or 2 chi in this scenario if you have the Rising Sun Kick buff up for basically no damage, but it does enable the Whirling Dragon Punch, which was the big part of this strat, right? When you remember, this pack is supposed to be a big pack with like 8-10 enemies, or a pack that lives long where you want to get multiple Whirling Dragon Punch out. So in that case, this opener is the best. Then you're gonna just start spinning, right? And you definitely want to mark things up as soon as possible here. Windwalker spin DPS is so dependent on the marks, right? And yeah, if you're lucky, you're gonna start proccing a little bit. I procced once there, that was pretty clean. Here, okay, thank God I did use the Fist of Fury there. You can see my Fist of Fury has come back up, and my Whirling Dragon Punch has come back up, which means that since this pack is still alive, right? It's a big pack. It has a lot of tough enemies in it. And you're, like you can see, we're really low on chi. We're really low on energy here. It's in the tail end of our CDs. We only have 5 seconds left of them. We're gonna start running out of resources. So this is where it comes in super handy to have that Fist of Fury Whirling Dragon Punch coming back up. You can see I can channel this Fist of Fury now, because suddenly I actually gain something out of it, right? I have nothing else to press here than to full channel this Fist of Fury. I didn't end up actually full channeling it quite, but I did get a lot of ticks off, so I can get some more energy reg, right? Yeah. So that's pretty much the standard AoE pack. You can see I'm doing about 25k DPS here. I probably could have played this better. Like there's a lot of optimization to be done in Windwalker to be sure you can mark things quicker. You can use those like situational blackout kicks where you have no Tiger Palm to press. You're in a Spinning Crane Kick. Like this is a scenario where you should be using blackout kick on AoE. You have started a Spinning Crane Kick, and since the Spinning Crane Kick is a fake channel, right? So the second half of Spinning Crane Kick, you can actually use other abilities without cancelling it. Now you can't use Fist of Fury, you can't use Expel Harm, you can't use any channels or cast time spells or anything like that, but you can use all of your like melee abilities like Tiger Palm, Rising Sun Kick, Blackout Kick, and stuff like that. So because of this, you definitely want to be using like something on the tail end of every single Spinning Crane Kick, right? And usually that's Tiger Palm. But if you're too low energy to actually use Tiger Palm, and you don't have Rising Sun Kick up, so you can't use that, then you have nothing to press, right? You have absolutely nothing to press in the tail end of the Spinning Crane Kick, except Blackout Kick if you have the Rising Sun Kick buff up, right? So this is the only scenario, or this is like the most prevalent scenario in where you would actually Blackout Kick on AoE. Would be where you're in a Spinning Crane Kick, you have nothing to press, you have the Rising Sun Kick buff up, you can get a free Blackout Kick out, right? That does make sense. Otherwise, it can be pretty scary to start Blackout Kicking excessively on AoE, because you're gonna lose out a lot of spins, and you're just gonna Rising Sun Kick too much, right? Effectively, what Blackout Kick does, it reduces the cooldown of your Rising Sun Kick, but on AoE, you don't really want to be Rising Sun Kicking that much. You do want to keep the buff up, of course, but it's not worth it to Blackout Kick just to keep the buff up more, if that's going to mean you spin less. Spinning is winning, boys. Remember that. So, okay, so now we're taking a look at a little bit of a smaller pack maybe, or a pack that's dying quick, a pack where your friends are going to pop everything as well, or just a pack that you want to just absolutely nuke, right? You want this pack to die ASAP. It's not going to live long. You're not going to get multiple rotations of Fist of Fury and Whirling Dragon Punch maybe, or you just want, like, this is the most common scenario for me. I know that my spin is the highest DPS I can do, right? Like my spin is fucking pumping. So if you only have a set amount of time to kill a pack in, well, then you're gonna want to use as many of those globals as possible on spins if that's your highest DPS, right? If you spend like 5 globals at the start just trying to get your abilities on CD, and then you only have 5 seconds of spinning before the pack is dead, then you would have been much better off just spinning for 10 seconds instead, right? So this is like the more burst, full, just go ham, just go spin, just delete the pack strat, and it's actually very, very powerful. I would say I probably use this more in Mythic Plus than I use the other pull, especially if you have if it's like low key, or if you just have some pogger friends going around and you're just pumping and everything. This is just the pull that's gonna like make you shine on the damage meters, right? This is where the real monk stuff happens, if you know what I'm talking about. So we're gonna start off the same way with the Rising Sun Kick, obviously, but after that we're just gonna spin every single other global, right? Like spin into something, spin into something, spin into something, spin into something. It doesn't matter what's up. And the other thing that you do in between the spins is most likely gonna be Tiger Palm, right? Because you want to generate some energy as well, because you're spending a lot, or you want to generate some chi. Obviously, if Rising Sun Kick is up, you're gonna use Rising Sun Kick instead of Tiger Palm on that, like between the spins. And then you have stuff like Fist of the White Tiger and Expel Harm and stuff that you can squeeze in between that. So the most important part, however, is just Rising Sun Kick, and then you spin. Tiger Palm, spin. Tiger Palm, spin. Rising Sun Kick, spin. Tiger Palm, spin. Tiger Palm, spin. You see what I'm saying? Like, just keep spending, keep going. And sure, you're gonna run maybe a little low on energy, but most of the time, you're still gonna proc so much with Dancer Chi that eventually you'll just end up ending that energy, or end up earning that energy or chi back, because you were procs, right? So you can see here, I'm just spinning, Tiger Palm, spinning, Tiger Palm, spinning, now I should be Rising Sun Kick, spinning, Tiger Palm, spinning, Tiger Palm, spinning, and you see I did proc a lot there. That was a really horrible play by me, actually. If we go back a little bit here, can see I'm fucking destroying the meters, but I did proc a lot here, so don't take this damage for granted, boys. This was a very lucky pull here, but either way, you can see the potential of the build, right? And or of the like style to play the pack. And yeah, after this here, wait, what? I'm actually trolling so hard. Okay, this is where I meant to go back to, right? Like, why would I ever Fists of Fury here? That makes no sense whatsoever. I'm at 5 chi, I have nothing to press, I'm in a spin. In this scenario, you just wait for that fucking Rising Sun Kick thing to come up. You don't send the Fist of Fury. It's a horrible play. Don't do like I did. But see, I should have just held just this. Like, you can see, I'm starting this Fist of Fury. Like, I'm starting this Fist of Fury very, very close to my Rising Sun Kick coming up. So it's definitely not worth it. I should have Rising Sun Kicked into more spins maybe. But I did end up using Fist of Fury there eventually, and that means I can finally Whirling Dragon Punch as well at the end of the pull. And this is what I usually do if I do this strat, right? Since you front load all of your spins so hard into the pull and your CDs, you're probably gonna, like, if you don't, especially if you don't proc a lot, you're gonna end up very energy starved here, like in the tail end of your CDs, maybe 5 seconds before your CDs expire. You're gonna be very starved, and by then you want to basically use Fist of Fury, and maybe even full channel it, and if you're low on resources, right? And then you can finish the pack off with the Whirling Dragon Punch instead. So this is basically just if you know you're only gonna get one Whirling Dragon Punch off, or you want to fucking destroy the pack, go for this one. Spins is the way to go. Yeah, that was my quick Weapons of Order guide. I hope you enjoyed it, hope you learned something. If you have any questions, if you think I played like a fucking dog or I just trolled, let me know in the comments. Please consider subscribing or liking if you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one, boys. Take care.